Howdy folks, I hope y'all having a great day. I hope you are feeling healthful and vibrant in your bodies. And if you're not feeling great, then I hope at least you have some orientation and some direction and strategy on how to attain greater health. Because when you're not feeling great, not knowing what to do, feeling lost is the worst feeling. So I hope that these videos that I'm making can help to give you some direction and some strategy, and can help you attain a more vibrant health. I know that the lifestyle I've chosen over the past 15 years or so has been highly enriching for my own life, and the research that I've done on the research that's been done, the data, demographic studies, control studies, etc., really corroborate and reinforce the notions that I have around diet and health. So today I'm going to talk about bioavailability of nutrients in animal foods versus plant-based foods. And I'm going to break this into a couple sections. I'm going to address some of the claims that animal food proponents make about certain nutrients that can become deficient in vegans and supposedly are not available and not synthesizable or whatever using a plant-based diet. I'm going to address how basically every nutrient is totally attainable and how one can attain vibrant health and balanced nutrient profile on a plant-based diet. The second part of the video, I'm going to address the moral implications of including animal foods in the diet. So first, we'll look at a few of the claims that people make about different nutrients that they say are not available in a plant-based diet. And I'm going off the top of my head here. This is more of a video to make a point. Like I can and probably will later on make a more thorough and even scientifically specific and backed video where I have some notes in front of me and I hit all the different points. But off the top of my head, I'm going to look at a few nutrients. There's a lot of claims about certain essential nutrients that aren't available in a plant-based diet that include heme iron, omega-3 or DHA, certain types of vitamin. There's a bioavailable type of vitamin A that you cannot get from plants. There is a few non-essential amino acids like carnosine and taurine, I think, and then there's creatine. And what is the other one? There's a bioavailable vitamin D. And yeah, so there's a handful of claims that people say, you can't get these nutrients on a plant-based diet, and therefore you're going to become deficient in iron or deficient in vitamin A, deficient in omega-3, etc. So we'll look at them one at a time. First off, it's true that you cannot get heme iron, which is the iron specifically attained from blood because it's from hemoglobin. But it's true that heme iron is more easily absorbable in the body because it's already basically in the form that is needed for building blood. But there's so many different and easily absorbable forms of iron that are available in a plant-based diet, and that people are able to intake and have very healthy iron levels in the blood using. Not to mention that heme iron is strongly associated with colon cancer and with heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, probably in part because heme iron is always taken in with high saturated fat and that sort of thing, and saturated fat is absolutely associated with all these heart disease and blood disease issues. So yes, heme iron is probably more harmful than it is beneficial, and it's not the only way to take in iron, and you can absolutely have healthy blood work by intaking lots of dark leafy greens and getting all your iron in that way. The next one is DHA. DHA is the omega-3 fat that is utilizable by the body. You cannot get that from plants in the DHA form, but you can get all the precursors in omega, in chia, flax, even to some degree in some walnuts and lettuce, and there's omega-3s all over the place. Are these precursors, and these precursors can be used to synthesize the DHA that's needed in the body for healthy brain function and different things like that. So, and what they also find is that for human health, we require a balance of omega-6 and omega-3s, and then 9s are kind of neutral. But what's found is that the more omega-6 you take in, which are these saturated fats in animal foods and nuts and seeds and oils, things like that, the more omega-6 you take in, the more omega-3 you take in. So if you follow a diet that I promote, which is around 20% fat, you actually require significantly less omega-3 in general, and it's easy to attain the amount that's needed for optimal health. So that one's kind of debunked, and you don't need to get DHA from fish or animal foods or anything like that. It's totally attainable through plants. And if you were nervous about getting enough DHA, you can always supplement with algae. I think it's in its utilizable form in that way. So the next one we'll talk about is vitamin A. Yes, there's a highly bioavailable vitamin A in animal foods. However, on a plant-based diet, if you're eating a variety of plants, such as carrots, basically anything orange that has an orange tint, you're going to get tons of vitamin A that's able to be utilized, absorbed, assimilated for optimal health. And some of those foods are carrots, kale, like I said, anything orange. I can go to sweet potatoes and on and on. There's lots of vitamin A out there. So we're not worried about vitamin A if you're getting a variety of plant foods in the diet. Another one that I forgot to mention earlier is B12. Yes, it's true that B12 is not included, is not available in plant foods, only in animal foods. But it's very easily supplemented, and the reality is that B12 was probably never an issue until the modern, sort of more sterile environment where we've depleted our soils using herbicides and pesticides and monocultures, and we drink all our water that's been cleaned or from springs and things like that. Whereas in the past, we would have gotten plenty of B12 from the microbes and the bacteria in the soil. We would have gotten that B12 from the residual soil on our vegetables, and also even just from drinking from time to time from a creek or something like that. We would have gotten lots of B12. So, and also another point is that B12 deficiency is not just in plant-based people. It's more of a epidemic that has more to do with malabsorption than lack of intake. And like I said, that one's so easy, is you just take a B12 supplement once a week, and it's probably a good idea if you're eating animals or not, because people need higher concentrations right now because of whatever malabsorption issues they have. So another one we'll look at is the different amino acids that people say you can't get from plant food diets. That's true. You can't get taurine and carnitine. That's true. However, both of those can be synthesized in the body, and all the essential amino acids can be found and are readily found in plant foods. So on a plant-based diet, as long as you're eating a variety of foods, you're going to get all the essential amino acids that then can be synthesized into all the needed amino acids in the body. So, I might have mentioned a couple more, but you get the point. Basically, at this point, all the research points to the fact that one can eat solely plants and attain all the nutrients needed for optimal health. So now that we've addressed the claims about certain nutrients being unavailable on a plant-based diet, and basically debunked that by showing, you know, talking about some of the research that shows that yes, actually these nutrients are all attainable on a plant-based diet, or either attainable or synthesizable. The research backs that up, a wide amount of research, and also looking at demographic type studies where we look at how lots and lots of people are living healthy, vibrant lives and have been doing so for decades and decades on solely plant-based diet. Let's look at the claim that certain nutrients are more bioavailable from animal foods, and let's see if that holds up. Like when we look at possible other implications about eating animal foods, like yes, we may get more certain nutrients, more bioavailability, but what are the consequences of choosing animal-based sources for those nutrients? So the idea that there are some nutrients that are more bioavailable, I think research shows that that's true, and I think that that makes sense logically, because if you think about it, the sun shines down this beautiful energy that allows for plants to grow and assimilate nutrients, create bonds, carbon-hydrogen bonds, also called carbohydrates, and synthesize proteins into their tissues, synthesize lipids, synthesize these vitamins, assimilate minerals and things into the tissues. And then something like a cow comes along and eats up all these assimilated nutrients, digests them, breaks them down, and then reorganizes them into the animal tissues in the body, the muscles, the fascia, the fats, the bones, everything. They assimilate all these tissues into these structures. And then another animal can come along, kill the other animal, eat the tissues. They're already in a native form, like hemoglobin. Like you can get this easily absorbable heme iron from hemoglobin. And so yes, those nutrients are very bioavailable and easily absorbed because they're already in a form that is needed for the body. In this case, we're talking about humans. So we can assimilate proteins, we can assimilate iron, we can assimilate minerals and things like that from animal foods. But what else is bioavailable in animal foods? Is there something else that's possible? Are there other things that could make using those sources less healthy, unhealthy? Well, we look at the saturated fats are highly assimilatable, and they're highly concentrated in ruminant animals. The saturated fat in a cow's tissue is more than the ratio of fat that we need in our own body. So if we eat that tissue, yes, we get all these nice proteins and things like that. Even there's research shows that there are excess proteins that cause us issues in themselves, but that's another video. But we also get an excess of saturated fat, which is associated with all kinds of heart disease, stroke, arterial deterioration, etc., etc. In fact, the way that these things are healed is by taking people off of animal foods and oils and putting them on a plant-based diet. And there's a huge success rate with curing heart disease in that method. Lisa? So I'm pulling up here. I just hopped to the security guard. So, trying to stay on track. What else is readily available and bioavailable that may not be ideal? All right, I'm back. I got a flat tire and I just had to change it. I'm like less than a kilometer from my work site, and I just ran over a sharp piece of concrete or something. Just had to change a flat tire, but we're good. So yeah, I'll just pick back up and try and wrap this up because it's a long video. But other things that we get from animal foods are higher concentrations of heavy metals, environmental pollutions due to the nature of concentration in animal tissues, because we concentrate the plants into tissues, and the plants already have some environmental toxins in them and on the surfaces due to chemtrails and pollution from cars and all the rest of it. Those pollutants get concentrated into animal tissues, and then whenever humans eat those tissues, they then also get those concentrations of pollutants and heavy metals in their systems as well. So all this to say, without going into every detail of this topic, is that there's truth to there being some more bioavailable nutrients in animal foods, but also you're getting other things that you don't want to get, such as high levels of saturated fats, environmental pollutants. How about cortisol, adrenaline, these sorts of fear hormones and trauma hormones that come from the sheer nature of being slaughtered. So with all those things in mind, now let's go to the next part of the video, which is the moral implication of choosing animal foods in the diet. So if we go ahead and make the assumption that there is no nutritive necessity for animal foods in the human diet, based upon demographics, based upon research, then we can make the conclusion that diet is a choice, meaning we can choose to eat animal foods or we can choose to eat plants because we can get the nutrients in either way. Then that's where the moral implication comes in, because we know that it causes suffering and trauma and fear and pain for animals to be slaughtered, to be eaten. We have a similar nervous system. We can see and relate with the tears and screams of animals in slaughterhouses and animals being torn apart from their mothers and things like that. These are very obvious things that we can empathize with. And for the people who are making the claims that, oh, plants feel pain too, I mean, come on, try harder. You got to do better than that if you're going to make that argument. Selamat siang. So then we have that looks at this situation of if we know that there's no nutritive necessity, then I would say that there is a negative moral implication of choosing animal foods when we don't have to, when we can see that there's an obvious amount of suffering, inhumaneness, and all that. So that's just what I want to look at today. That's what I wanted to bring forth, is to look at the claims of bioavailability of nutrients in animal versus plant foods, show that there's all the evidence suggests that there is optimal absorption and accessibility to all the nutrients that humans need through plants without taking in excessive environmental toxins and excessive saturated fats and excessive stress hormones and animal hormones in general. And then also looking at the moral implication based upon that, because I think what we want to look at, if there was an actual nutrient necessities for animal foods, like we saw this, people were not able to get all the nutrients from plants, then the moral implication would be far, far, far less. I would still consume animals if I could not, and I would still give my family animal foods if there was no way to achieve those nutrients from plant sources. I mean, it sounds narcissistic or whatever, but I think this is, if you're not saying this, then I think that you're probably lying to yourself in some way or another. But I value my life and the life of my children more than I value the animal's life, even though I highly value the animal's life, and I've shown this in my lifestyle for the last 15 years, causing no harm, as little harm as possible to animals overtly. Obviously, there's animals that are hurt in agriculture and that sort of thing, but let's not even go into that topic right now because it's so ridiculous, because animal food production uses over 50-something% of all the plant foods that are grown for feeding animals. So anyways, that'll be another topic, is just looking at some of these silly claims on, you know, to justify people eating animals by basically like trying to demoralize plant food production, stuff like that. So anyways, I think I'm pulling up to the job site now. I think I've got a 20-minute video here. Hopefully it's a nice rounded video. There's a lot of distractions on the road today, and I hope that it came to a nice conclusion. Just a little something to chew on, a little something to think about. What are the moral implications if there's no nutritive necessity from animal foods? Then in that case, diet's a choice. And what shall you choose? What shall you choose? It's becoming more and more of a no-brainer when we see that, you know, animal food production is the worst thing for the environment possible. It's detrimental to the body in the long term, and there's massive suffering and moral implications incurred through that choice. Whereas plant foods, we have an improvement in all aspects of that. And I think that my experience, demographic research, and scientific research on nutritive research corroborates this. So, boom, Car Vlog 3. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, wishing you the best of health. There we go.